Alright, welding switch points, 106. Personal protective equipment switch point, repair restriction switch point, identification, identifying rail type switch point, where remove metal flow of the stock rail, remove the defective material, welding switch point, grinding switch point, top end of the switch point, gauge stick, gauge stop rail slide switch point. Personal protective equipment, hard hat with hiring protection, eye protection, welding head hood with a clear line with a grind mode, with the safety glasses wrapped around face shield with goggles and safety glasses, 5 shade. Work should welding jacket, welding sleeve with leather leggings, approved safety toe booth, flame resistant clothing, respiratory policy, respiratory equipment, oxy-fuel gas, heating, hard hat, hearing protection, ideal eye protection, wrapped around face mask, with the safety glasses. One has to be shade number 5, mono glass, shade number 5, safety glass could be used with alternative, leather welding gloves, welding jacket, welding sleeve, leather leggings, approved safety tube boots, and flammable resistant clothing, separated respiratory equipment, electrical arc, welding hood properly shaded with a hard hat with the inlet for the approved with non-PAPR, welding hood hearing with a protection safety glass, leather welding glove with welding jacket, welding sleeve with approved safety toe boot with the flame resistant clothing, 78C respiratory pump with the respiratory equipment that required fan. Switch point repair restriction, not well with the repair switch points and mainline switches, siding switches of class 3 above track with maximum posted speed, including mainline track with the sidings determine the maximum operating speed with the subdivision include both straight and turnout switch point with mainly siding track. Welding repair magnesium Samson type switch points, insert undercut stock rails is prohibited. Heel end of the switch point may be welded in all tracks according to procedure of the rail ended welding in chapter 105. Welding rail ends. Train and engines must not operate over switch points being repaired or welded until the pre-grinding and welding and finished grinding required adjustments are complete. Take the switch out of service until all work is complete. 106.3 switch point identification, 2 switch point design, switch point knife pinch, which is point either the turn full ball rails section, stock rail is shown on the left, Samson switch box stop rail, chamfered and mated surface is shown on the right. So you have your standard knife point, and then you have your Samson point. Identify rail type. Rail switch, steel switch points are full length, one piece point with iron magnetic. Magnesium switch points are insert with a bolt with a long carbon steel with switch point section are non-magnetic. Switch point viewer point wear. Switch point is worn down, chipped at the top of the chone with a 7/8 inch below with a planar curve at the top of the stock rail. Switch must be repaired or replaced. And then that show the length of the switch point or the distances of the R and H1, L, and H2. Up to 19 foot 16 inches, 1.5, 7/8 inch, over 12, over 10 inches, 3/4 inch, and then 19 and 16 over 1.5, 7/8 inch, over 16 and 3/4 inch. If the stock point is chipped and is unprotected vertical surface within 5/16 inch or wire 3/4 inch below the top of the stock rail, switch point must be repaired or replaced. Alright, remove metal from the stock rail with excessive metal flow will prevent the switch point with the properly closed with against for the stock rail should be removed with the rail with the switch point contact stock rail provide with a good fit with the remove of the metal flow, remove with all the flowed metal with the gauge set with the stock rail with the 4 welding switch point installed with the start of the 4 inch ahead with the switch point grind back toward hill where the switch point ends contact with the stock rail, ensure no sharp projections remain after grinding, remove the metal flow with the stock rail tapered to inch end with a grind minimum of 4 inches of length. Shift the stock rail and point of contact link with the air to remove the flow point, switch point, metal flow at the top of the rail area of the taper. Restore the gauge field slide with the corner of the stock rail 5/16 inch to 9/16 of the radius, then per standard drawings. 107, remove the defective material, remove the defective material, switch point grinding only, do not use carbon arc cutting, oxy-fuel torch cutting for this purpose, remove the defective area, metal prior to welding, repair crate, level strip of the grinding, entire welded area flat, maximum length speed over the repair should not exceed 16 inches. Should 5/8 inches on the knife point and 16th inch grind level before welding in the top of the stock rail. Welding switch point on standard carbon rail, steel switch point preheating an entire welded area plus 3 inches past 700 degrees, maintain this temperature throughout the welding process. If the temperature falls below the minimum required preheat temperature, steel must be reheated before welding continues on magnesium steel point switch points and serve do not preheat steel do not allow the temperature of parent steel to exceed 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Air help to cool magnesium steel. You have the temp stick with a measure 1/2 inch below with the deposited metal. Insert 1/4 by 3 inch by 18 inch copper backing plate between the switch point and the stock rail before welding. Switch point must not be used. The opening position welding must be closed against stock rail. Use only volume approved stick electrodes when used welding. And it shows improved electrode. You got the 3/16, 172, 125 amperes, and rail build 540, 3/16 inch, 172, 100 amperes. Polyas, the magnesium steel, both 3/16, 172, 25, and 172, 200 amperes. Begin welding the tip of the switch point. Once the electric arc is established, move the electrode quickly away from the end of the switch point to avoid melting the tip. Slowly travel the speed of the welding progresses away from the switch point tip. Remove all slag before deposit the next layer of the welded metal. Do not use the needle, scaler, or the carbon reel seal for the purpose of the chipping hammer only. Paint each bead clean with a wire brush before attempting the next weld layer. Grind switch points. Top end switch point. Grinding top of the end of the switch point, tip of the switch point with a 5/8 inch, 3/4 inch lower with the crown of the sock rail. Refer to the steering drawing with the specific dimension for every size switch point. Ensure the top of the point tapers back over the rod at 8 inches point will not carry any over the load. Show the knife switch and then 5/8 inch below the top of the head with the 8 inches of the top of the sock rail. Grip the end of the switch point with a narrow edge. Do not grind the sharp edge, but that may cover the switch point to correct. Grind off the metal flow back of the switch point, obtain with a closed fit between the switch point and the sock rail. Use straight edge frequently to prevent bumps and dips, ensure the uniform furnish grind. Gauge and stock rail side switch point. Grind gauge stock rail switch point. Grind gauge corner 5/16 to 9/16 radius for the per standard drawing. Slightly bevel the top of the stock rail side. Shove the first 10 inches from the end of the point and slow the rail end of the heel of the switch point. Check for the proper fit between the switch point and the stock rail. After all the welding and the grinding operation are complete, apply with the grease if available to extend the life of the switch point. Always have the single maintainer available. The welding, grinding, and switches equipped with the switch machines and electrical locks and control circuits. 107. The Frogs General.